Zhao Zhuangxing of the Talent Development Committee of the Macau SAR government, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hong Kong and welcome to the inaugural Global Talent Summit organized by the Hong Kong SAR government. And what an inaugural summit this is, with 3 high-powered, talent-driven events over these next 2 days. Today's International Talent Forum, tomorrow's Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area High-Quality Talent Development Conference, and running both days, a Career Connect Expo featuring nearly 100 exhibitions. Then there's you, the most important element of all, each and every one of you. Some 1,000 participants from around the world are here for the summit. More than 2,500 others have registered for online participation, and Hong Kong is at the very heart of it all. The central government has always been the strongest supporter of Hong Kong. And of yesterday, I'm pleased to note, the mainland has expanded the talent exit endorsement. That means mainland professionals in scientific research, education, healthcare, legal practice, and other areas from Beijing, Shanghai, and 9 Greater Bay Area cities can travel to and from Hong Kong multi-times within the validity period of their exit endorsement. The new policy will make it more convenient for mainland professionals to travel to Hong Kong. It will also promote professional exchanges and reinforce Hong Kong's role as the country's international talent hub and gateway for Greater Bay Area professionals. My thanks to the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Security for its continuing support. My thanks to Minister Wang Xiaoping for leading a delegation to the Global Talent Summit. Why is talent significant to economic growth? Talent is the prime resource and driving force that boosts economic development and competitiveness. Strategic professionals generate the innovative ideas that lead to new and improved products, services, and technologies. Talent is also driven by hunger for personal growth, to excel in their fields and push the boundaries of their abilities. These elements are key factors in success, not just for professionals and their industries, but more important, the success of the overall economy. With much of the world working to revive economic growth in the post-pandemic global economy and amid rising geopolitical tensions, the search for talent has become a global phenomenon and a continuous challenge. Why Hong Kong? Why relocate here? Because Hong Kong is where talents get to thrive and grow in a world-class economy, in Asia's world city. Thanks to our one country, two systems principle, Hong Kong is bestowed with prime business prospects and far-reaching promise. Hong Kong is the only place in the world where the global advantage and China advantage come together in a single city. We have the foundation well in place to succeed. Hong Kong's institutional strengths include a world-class business environment, a simple and low-tax system, a highly open and internationalized market, and the free flow of information, capital, goods, and people. These strengths are buttressed by the rule of law and the long-standing common law system, which is similar to that practiced in many major international financial centers around the world. Alongside our international financial and trade prowess, we are emerging as an innovation and technology hub and cultural metropolis. Hong Kong was ranked first in Asia, second globally, among the world's top 100 emerging startup ecosystems, according to the latest Global Startup Ecosystem Report. Hong Kong, let me add, is much more than a city of businesses and skyscrapers. We have long been one of Asia's most livable cities. For newcomers, communication is never a problem. We have always been a bilingual community, a city where English and Chinese are official languages. It will only become even more multilingual as Hong Kong continues to thrive as an East meets West center for cultural exchange. Hong Kong is a splendid and diverse mix of Eastern and Western cultures, home to world-class arts and sports events. Hong Kong is also blessed with natural beauty. Some 40% of our territory is given over to country parks with endless hiking trails, stunning beaches, and even a UNESCO Global Geopark. And our location at the heart of Asia means you can get anywhere in good time. It helps too that we are an international aviation hub. Our healthcare services are world-class in quality, efficiency, and reliability. Hong Kong is also among the world's safest cities. In Hong Kong, you don't just get world-class work opportunities, you get a satisfying life too. Yes, choosing to relocate to Hong Kong on your own or with your loved ones is a big decision. But I'm here to tell you that this is the place where you can work hard, play hard, and enjoy hard. The Hong Kong SAR government invests heavily in attracting, developing, and retaining talent. Hong Kong is the only Asian city with as many as 5 universities in the world's top 100. And let me add, Hong Kong's universities are home to some of the world's top 10 schools, covering such disciplines as dentistry, nursing, education, data science, and AI, according to the latest QS World University Rankings. No less important, our doors and our arms are wide open to talent from all over the world. Since launching a series of talent admission programs at the end of 2022, we have welcomed more than 120,000 talents from around the world, talents who have settled in Hong Kong. Many more will follow. Of that, I'm confident. While the government is taking the lead to attract companies and talented individuals to Hong Kong, the private sector has an important role to play in strengthening our talent base. In this regard, I wish to invite you all to pay tribute to the late Professor Tang Xiao Jiao. Professor Tang Xiao. Professor Tang was a distinguished leader in our business. He's also a distinguished leader in our business community as well, and was a member of my Council of Advisors. He had tendered valuable advice to me in the areas of innovation and entrepreneurship, and his untimely passing was indeed a loss for Hong Kong. A computer scientist and a pioneer in the field of AI, he was among the first few in promoting the commercialization of R&D outcomes in Hong Kong. Some of his outstanding achievements include the founding of the Chinese University of Hong Kong's Lab, and of course, the founding of Hong Kong's first homegrown unicorn to be listed on our very own stock exchange. No less vital was his vision and dedication in working with youth and grooming young talents. He mentioned numerous ideas and mentored numerous outstanding AI talents here in Hong Kong and on the mainland. Professor Tong's vision, determination, and leadership will continue to inspire us all. For the business leaders and educators among us today, we need you. If we are to nurture, attract, and inspire talent, if we are to take full advantage of the flourishing future here for Hong Kong and for everyone, we need your full support. Hong Kong Talent Engage, an office set up under our Labour and Welfare Bureau, is dedicated to creating targeted recruitment and publicity for strategic international and mainland talent. Talent Engage also provides a wide ranging of support services for incoming professionals, from job hunting, apartment and school searches, to banking services and networking. That includes, of course, the hosting of this inspiring summit just a few months after its own good launch. I'm pleased to note that the Talent Engage is working closely with like-minded partners in supporting talent. These partners include the Hong Kong Top Talent Services Association, the Hong Kong Quality and Talent Migrants Association, the Bay Area Economic and Trade Association, and the latest addition to the list, the Hong Kong New Quality Entrepreneur Union, established just yesterday. My thanks to the Human Resources and Social Security Department of the Guangdong Province, as well as the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office of Guangdong Province and the Talent Development Committee of the Macau SAR government. They are with us today and are also the organizers of tomorrow's Greater Bay Area Conference, the second edition, following last year's inaugural event in Guangzhou. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all the best of business at the Global Talent Summit, and do take full advantage of your stay with us in Hong Kong. Embrace a wide ranging of museums, galleries, hiking trails, and beaches. Then indulge in our international celebrated wine and dine scene. This is how you can play hard after working hard in the conferences, and also spend hard in this gourmet city and shopping paradise. Enjoy the summit and all that's on offer in Hong Kong. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Please take a seat. Ms. Wang Xiaoping, Minister of Human Resources and Social Security of the People's Republic of China, will give us a special address. Let's welcome Ms. Wang. 有请王部长。
尊敬的李家超行政长官、各位嘉宾、各位朋友、女士们、先生们，大家上午好！很高兴应李家超行政长官的邀请，来到美丽的湘江之畔，出席这次香港全球人才高峰会。在此，我谨代表中国人力资源和社会保障部对高峰会的举办表示热烈祝贺，向一直以来关心支持内地和香港经济社会发展的各位来宾、各位朋友表示衷心的感谢。刚才，香港特区行政长官李家超先生做了热情洋溢的致辞，向海内外 各行各业的优秀人才，发出了来自东方明珠的诚挚邀请，充分展现了特区政府放眼世界、海纳百川的态度和气魄。近年来，在习近平主席关心推动、中央政府的全力支持和香港各界的共同努力下，香港牢牢把握祖国内地改革开放和现代化建设的重大机遇，充分发挥一国两制制度优势，积极履行维护国家安全宪制责任，有效落实爱国者治港的根本原则，开启了香港由治及兴的新篇章。香港经济蓬勃发展，国际金融、航运、贸易三大中心地位稳固，创新科技产业迅速兴起，自由开放雄冠全球，营商环境世界一流，各项社会事业全面进步，为海内外人才在港创新创业提供了前所未有的良好环境。在李家超行政长官带领下，特区政府紧扣发展这一第一要务，面向全球筑巢引凤，成立专门的人才服务机构，密集出台一系列含金量十足的引才计划，为各类人才迁岗、支岗、留岗提供全方位制度安排和政策保障，为香港发展注入了新的动力和活力。在瑞士洛桑国际管理发展学院发布的2023年世界人才报告中，香港人才竞争力水平在亚洲地区高居第二，也表明香港是全球人才奋斗瞩目的理想之城。女士们、先生们、朋友们，人才是经济社会发展的第一资源。习近平主席从实现中华民族伟大复兴的全局，深刻阐释了人才在推进现代化建设中的基础性、战略性支撑作用，对加快建设人才强国作出重大部署，明确提出聚天下英才而用之。近年来，中国政府持续深化人才发展体制机制改革，实施更加积极、更加开放、更加有效的人才政策，近悦远来的引才用才格局进一步形成。中国拥有世界上最大规模的人才资源，专业技术人才超过8000万，技能人才超过2亿，人力资源素质不断提升，接受高等教育的人口2.4亿，新增劳动力平均受教育年限14年，人才国际竞争优势稳步增强，研发人员总量和国际专利申请居世界首位。中国正在成为创新人才高度集聚、创新要素高度整合、创新活动高度活跃的全球人才高地，这也为支持香港打造国际人才新高地提供了坚实基础。中央政府十分重视香港在人才领域发挥的重要作用，全力支持香港同世界各地开展更广泛、更紧密的交流合作，吸引满怀梦想的创业者来港施展财富、施展抱负，特别是赋予粤港澳大湾区一点两地及新发展格局的战略支点、高质量发展的示范地、中国式现代化的引领地的战略地位，支持建设粤港澳高水平人才高地，吸引全球高层次创新人才、企业和科研机构集聚，带动湾区 加快融入全球创新网络。这不仅为香港发展提供了强劲动能，也为香港深度融入国家发展大局、开创“一国两制”事业新局面提供了有力支撑。当前，中国正以高质量发展全面推进中国式现代化，将释放巨大的发展机遇。发展的中国需要世界各方面人才广泛参与，开放的香港张开双臂，欢迎全球的英才。人力资源社会保障部将围绕以人口高质量发展支撑中国式现代化，聚焦建设现代化产业体系和发展新质生产力，加大高素质创新型技术技能人才培养力度，构建具有国际竞争力的人才引进使用机制，推进高水平人才高地和吸引集聚人才平台建设，加快塑造现代化人力资源。同时，推进粤港澳大湾区人才一体化发展，探索实行国际化的就业和社会保障政策，打造资源集聚的创新创业载体，促进公共服务便利融通，支持香港以更加优越的营商环境和干事创业的发展环境，引进人才、留住人才、用好人才，为香港的繁荣发展开拓新空间，增添新动能。女士们、先生们、朋友们，今天的中国已成为各方人才大有可为、大有作为的热土。今天的香港更是迎来了全力拼经济、谋发展的最好时期。站在新的起点上，我们愿与特区政府共同努力，为香港发展经济和改善民生夯实人才基础，续写“一国两制”新篇章，共创狮子山下新传奇。风正时际，自当破浪前行。我们相信，特区政府一定会继续用好背靠祖国、联通世界的独特优势，做好发挥自身所长、对接国家所需这篇大文章，吸引更多海内外英才在港大展宏图、兴业乐业，为建设更加美好的香港增质赋能，开创高质量发展新局面。我们期待海内外各行各业的人才以及工商界、学界等各界的朋友更多走进中国，特别是走进香港，抓住并充分利用中国内地高水平对外开放和香港繁荣稳定带来的机遇，干事创业，成就梦想，为促进中国与世界各国共同发展，构建人类命运共同体做出新贡献。同时也希望内地，特别是大湾区人力资源社会保障部门紧密对接香港引才需求，在工作便利、职业发展、服务保障、优化环境等方面创新完善政策举措，为香港建设国际人才枢纽提供良好的助力，支持香港在融入国家发展大局中实现自身更好、更大发展。最后，预祝本次会议取得圆满成功，谢谢大家。
感谢王部长。Ms. Wong, please take a seat. Today's inaugural Global Talent Summit in Hong Kong is only made possible with the staunch support from our partners and exhibitors. On behalf of the organizer, we would like to thank our strategic partners, Hong Kong Institute of Human Resource Management, Tongdao Liping, LinkedIn. Special thanks also go to our exhibitors who are here today to offer their holistic support to talents from around the world. May I now invite government officials and speakers to come to the stage and take a group photo, please. Thank you. Mr. Matthew Gallup, Managing Director, Connected Group. Mr. Sudesh T, Head of Diversity, Equity and Inclusion, Asia, Manulife. Ms. Fiona Ang, Managing Director, Asia Pacific LinkedIn. Professor Alfred Tak Kee Ho, Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences, City University of Hong Kong. Professor David Cardwell, Pro Vice Chancellor for Strategic and Planning, University of Cambridge. Mr. Peter Brown, Partner and Global Workforce Leader, PwC, United Kingdom. Dr. Jacob Kamchak-Hui, CEO, MTR Corporation Limited. Mr. Jay Malani, Chief Executive Officer, IBT. Mr. Eswin T, Chief Executive Officer and President, Big C Super Center Public Company Limited. Mr. Wang Fabin, Deputy Chief Executive, Bank of China Hong Kong Limited. Mrs. Fatima Al-Hydri, Director of Investment and Talent Attraction Department, Ministry of Economy, United Arab Emirates. Dr. Chris Maxwell, Co-founder, 10,000 Hours. Mr. Du Mingqi, Director General of the Human Resources and Social Security Department of the Guangdong Province. Mr. Chen Liwen, Director of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office of the People's Government of Guangdong Province. Mr. Zhou Chongqiang, Secretary General of the Talent Development Committee of the Macau Special Administrative Region. The Honorable Chris San Yok Han, Secretary for Labour and Welfare of the Government of the Hong Kong SAR. Ms. Wang Xiaoping, Minister of Human Resources and Social Security of the People's Republic of China. The Honorable John K.C. Lee, the Chief Executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. Now it's time for our media friends to capture this memorable moment. Our heartfelt thanks to all our guests for officiating the Global Talent Summit's opening. I'm sure the audience is excited to join the upcoming International Talent Forum and enjoy insightful sharing from our esteemed speakers. Thank you, guests. Please take a seat. The Chief Executive and the Minister will depart at this point for another engagement. Thank you very much for gracing this memorable occasion. It's my pleasure to be with you all, witnessing the inaugural Global Talent Summit taking place in Hong Kong, showcasing Hong Kong's distinctive advantages and the charm as an international talent hub to the world. Now I would like to pass the floor to Patricia Young, who will be your MC for the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene, for the kind introduction. It's my privilege to be serving as your MC for the rest of the day. Now, before we proceed with the program, a warm reminder, simultaneous interpretation is available at the summit today. Please collect a headset at the entrance if needed. Channel 1 is Cantonese, Channel 2 is English, Channel 3 is 普通话。 今天的峰会将会以英语进行，大会设有同声传译服务。有需要的来宾可以到入口处领取耳机。频道1为粤语，频道2为英语，频道3为普通话。Now let's start our Day 1 program, the International Talent Forum. The first keynote speech is titled Access to Global Talent, Empowering Economic Success. Before inviting our speaker onto the stage, let's watch the following video together. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome on stage Dr. Jacob Kamchapui, the Chief Executive Officer of the MTR Corporation Limited, to deliver the keynote speech. Please welcome Dr. Kam.
The Secretary for Labour and Welfare, Mr. Chris Sun, Director of Hong Kong Talent Engage, Mr. Anthony Lau, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm honored to be here today at the Global Talent Summit, where we come together to discuss how to access and leverage global talent in order to drive economic success. As a Hong Kong company, MTR takes pride as an ambassador enterprise in Hong Kong's super connectors role. In the last 45 years, we have become a company with business presence not just in Hong Kong, but in the mainland of China, in Australia, and Europe. We have seen the benefits of having access to a global talent pool. We remained committed to attracting global talent, fostering community development, and thereby driving economic growth. In the next 15 minutes or so, I'll share with you MTR's experience in growing our talents. In 1979, the first MTR line started its service in Hong Kong. Since then, we have been striving to grow the communities that we serve with caring, innovative, and sustainable services. Our purpose, to keep cities moving, is not only about mobility, but also about supporting Hong Kong and the cities we serve to make advancements, to grow, and to continue to improve our urban lifestyles. This is also the guiding star for our talent development. I'm sure that you're familiar with our Hong Kong railway network, which has now grown to 271 kilometers and serves over 5.5 million passenger journeys every weekday. Last year's heavy rail's passenger journeys on time reached the historical best at 99.98%. You may also know our property business, which now manages over 120,000 residential units, serving over 300,000 residents. These units were developed as part of the rail plus property model. We also manage 16 shopping malls, which serve over 1 million customers every day. The rail plus property model is a funding method that has been heralded as Hong Kong's successful self-financing model for building, operating, and maintaining our railway infrastructure sustainably. Under this model, MTR is enabled not only to invest, build, and operate a world-class metro network, but also to build seamless integrated communities around the railway infrastructure. Many cities and railway companies around the world have come to Hong Kong just to understand how we do this transit-oriented development. Last year, MTR started the construction for 4 new railway extensions in Hong Kong. The company will be investing over 100 billion Hong Kong dollars on these new lines. More extension projects are expected to start construction in the next 2 years. These railway projects will support the continuous development of Hong Kong and the growth of our city's economy. What you may not be aware are our businesses in the mainland of China and around the world. Today, we operate railway services in the mainland and in Macau, the United Kingdom, Australia, and Sweden, managing a total of over 2,000 kilometers of railway lines outside of Hong Kong. For example, we invested and built 5 lines in Beijing, and we now operate about 20% of the Beijing metro network. Under service contracts, we operate the whole of Melbourne City's 430 kilometers of metro network, and we operate London's Elizabeth Line, the line named after the Queen. The key to our successes in Hong Kong and globally is our people. The empowerment and development of our global talents helps us to stay on top of the rapidly changing world and to seize the opportunities such as the Northern Metropolis in Hong Kong, the global digital economy, and the rise of smart technology and generative AI. You can see in our transformation business strategy, people and talents are the key enablers for what we want to achieve. For innovation and technology, we not only develop our own people, but also collaborate with academia, research institutions, and invest in startup companies in Hong Kong and around the world. We hope that by investing in our own people and in talents elsewhere, MTR and Hong Kong will be benefited by the results of their hard work. These national and international involvement will further enhance Hong Kong's role as a super connector and also attract talents for Hong Kong. To sustain our success, MTR continues to recruit colleagues from all types of background, and we continue to develop as a multidisciplinary organization. Even just last year, we recruited around 3,000 people in Hong Kong and globally, including mainland, to join our Hong Kong businesses. These new staff will include people from ethnic diverse communities and people with disabilities. As at the end of 2023, MTR Group of companies employed over 17,000 staff in Hong Kong and over 35,000 staff outside of Hong Kong, making a total of more than 52,000 staff worldwide. With our new extension projects, we expect to mobilize over 1,500 staff, including new joiners in MTR, and will create tens of thousands of job opportunities for the construction industry in Hong Kong. In MTR, we emphasize the importance of the transfer of knowledge from one generation to the next. 45 years ago, where there were very few metro experts in Hong Kong, we imported talents from UK and other places and started training our own. So from day one, we were already working and learning in an international environment. Now, after 45 years, we have built a strong global reputation and brand for MTR, and we're able to export our expertise And in doing so, we also create new opportunities for our people. Today, our comprehensive training programs not only have trained our own people, but also have served mainland and global clients. In 2016, we established the MTR Academy to support the Belt and Road Initiative. The MTR Academy serves as a global hub for education and research in railway management and engineering. To date, it has provided tailored training programs to 400 railway executives and managers from 22 countries and regions, including 28% from Belt and Road countries. Our target is to enable more than 50,000 people to be benefited from our various skills and innovation programs from 2022 to 2025. The Academy has also helped MTR address recruitment challenges in a competitive market, with 21% of the graduates joining MTR. Additionally, we have initiated the MTR Research Funding Scheme to support local university research, with 12 projects already receiving funding after the first year. Having recruited the talents, we are committed to cultivating a supportive working environment for them to thrive. In MTR, we adopt various initiatives to recruit, retain, and develop our people. We proactively reach out and engage local and global talents, and also professionals with specialized expertise. We empower our staff to develop their potential to the full and celebrate their achievements with them. We invest substantially in training and development resources to enable lifelong learning for all of our staff. We recently won a total of 21 awards from last month's 49th International Exhibition of Inventions at Geneva. These awards were won by our young talents in engineering and operations. We help their personal development as they overcome real-life business challenges with innovation and technology. Furthermore, through secondment and exchanges among different companies in the MTR group, we encourage and facilitate global knowledge sharing among our employees. Successful experiences and ideas can now be implemented in different cities, eventually benefiting all our customers with better service. We have also in place knowledge management that will capture best practices in different forms so that we can transfer the knowledge to later generations. Connecting communities is our expertise. MTR as city movers, we focus not only on ourselves, we also strive to address societal needs and foster advancement and opportunities for the communities inclusively. To support the future skill development of our young people, we organize the regular Train for Life journey programs since 2009 and have reached over 2,000 secondary school students, including participants from ethnically diverse backgrounds or with disabilities. To promote the creative industry in Hong Kong, 2 of our graduate talents launched in 2022 a new retail business called Lauda. Lauda enables local artists to showcase their design and handmade products in the MTR shopping malls. Furthermore, MTR has been supporting government's talent policy and taking part in initiatives for attracting global talents and offering opportunities to young people. MTR's success has been fueled by generations of talents and successions of railway and business professionals with a resolute commitment to our core purpose to keep cities moving and a forward-thinking business strategy. We are dedicated to attracting, engaging, and nurturing individuals to join us as city movers. By spearheading infrastructure development, delivering world-class service, and creating exciting opportunities for people, we not only drive the success of our company, but also foster the prosperity and growth of the communities we serve. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all do our part in the pursuit of excellence and work together towards a brighter future for the people of our nation and of Hong Kong. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kam, for the exceptional keynote speech. Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you for sharing your insights and for sharing the important work that MTR has been doing for your talents. Moving on, we'll have 2 more captivating panels scheduled for this morning. These panels will take us through the formula for building a global talent hub and creating modern corporate culture. Get ready to delve into an abundance of insights and knowledge. Well, before we invite our esteemed panel members to the stage, I would like to remind our audience to also participate in the Q&A session by scanning the QR codes on both sides of the screens right now. You can submit your questions by scanning the QR code, and moderators will bring your questions to the panel at an appropriate time. Now, without further ado, we're going to start our first panel. And the discussion this morning with the topic will be Building a Global Talent Hub, the Formula for Success. The panel will discuss key issues including how global talent hubs in the rest of the world are shaping their talent attraction and retention strategies, international talent flows, demographic shifts, and cultural trends among global talent hubs. Current and future opportunities Hong Kong offer to talents, including efforts and policies by the Hong Kong government to attract and retain talents. Insights from global counterparts, best practices, and strategies for Hong Kong's talent ecosystem. At this panel, we're delighted to have the following experts with us. Please welcome Ms. Fion Ang, Managing Director, Asia Pacific, LinkedIn. Please welcome. We're pleased to also have Professor David Cardwell, Pro Vice Chancellor for Strategy and Planning, University of Cambridge. Please welcome. Next, may we invite Professor Alfred Tek Kay Ho, Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences, City University of Hong Kong. And moderating this panel for us is Mr. Matthew Golub, Managing Director, Connected Group. Please welcome. Welcome again to our esteemed members of the panel, and over to you, Matthew.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. As has been introduced, this panel is about the formula for success. And we've already heard from Chief Executive and Dr. Kam that an inflow of diverse talents is key to sustainable economic growth and success, which is a globally recognized formula. So with stiff competition worldwide, how do metropolitan cities maintain their status as global talent hubs? That's going to be one of the things that we're going to be discussing. And we'll also look at the critical elements and strategies necessary for cultivating and maintaining a global talent hub. And then we zoom into how Hong Kong can continue to evolve its approach by leveraging its unique advantages and benchmarking best practices. So our panelists today, I'm just going to briefly introduce. We have Fion Ang, who's the Managing Director, Asia Pacific for LinkedIn, based in Singapore, where she leads the company's business strategy throughout the region. So her role drives LinkedIn's vision of creating economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce in the APAC region. And to achieve this, LinkedIn has developed the Economic Graph, a digital representation of the world's economy, and provides valuable insights to businesses and policy leaders into trends like talent migration, hiring rates, and in-demand skills by region. So very relevant to us here today. We have Professor Alfred Ho, who is the Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences at City University of Hong Kong. He recently established the Policy Lab for Hong Kong Talent Development, exploring what policies and cross-sectoral action may help Hong Kong continue to attract and retain global talents. And he's also a member of the Chief Executive's Policy Unit Expert Group in Hong Kong, providing extra expert views and new ideas to the CEPU concerning various topics related to Hong Kong. And last but not least, Professor David Cardwell, who is the Pro Vice Chancellor for Strategy and Planning at the University of Cambridge, based in the UK. Until recently, he was also a distinguished visiting professor at the University of Hong Kong. He's been to Hong Kong many times and has worked in China as well. And additionally, his involvement as a member of the Hong Kong government's University Grants Committee highlights his significant contribution to shaping higher education policy and strategy internationally and in Hong Kong. So thank you very much to our esteemed panelists. And myself, I'm the managing director of Connected Group, which is an executive recruitment and search business. I've been in that sector for 27 years, 23 of those based out of Hong Kong, working across the region with a team of 60, so we cover quite a wide range of industries and functions to give insight into different sectors. So without further ado, let's get these talented individuals involved in a discussion around this topic. So the first question is about some of the trends that we see at a more macro level. So how do demographic shifts, cultural trends impact both the global and Hong Kong talent pipelines? And what steps can we take to address these challenges? And if I can start, Fion, with yourself, LinkedIn's data-driven insights, I'm sure, can provide us some useful context here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Well, I think many people in the audience would have heard of this word AI. Yeah? So, well, what we're seeing is that AI is definitely revolutionizing the world of work. And we think about it, in Hong Kong, we are actually seeing the skills for jobs changing by 76% in the year of 2030. Meaning that the job that we have today and the skills that's required to perform that same job is going to change quite drastically by year 2030. What it means for companies then is, how are they actually coping with this change? Because here it is the big movement on the AI front, and yet, you know, the need to actually making sure that there is skills to cope with that demand. So some of the things that we are seeing on a company side of things is, one, the companies are beginning to realize that the demand for AI skills is real. 76% of companies tell us that they rather hire someone with AI skills that is less experienced compared to someone with that experience if you don't have AI skills. So it goes to show that many companies are actually in great demand of the AI skills. And coupled with that, you know, people are beginning to also realize that there is a need to actually improve themselves. So Gen AI skills is actually the #1 skills that is picked up by the professionals in Hong Kong. So we talk about acquiring skills, but it's almost impossible to keep on hiring AI skills because, first of all, that skills is in demand that a lot of companies couldn't find. So what do? Companies are beginning to invest a lot more in people, making sure that they have the right skills to meet the needs of the business. So companies need to invest and creating a more human-centric, creating that internal mobility, the learning opportunities, so that people can continue to stay in where and evolve in the jobs that they're doing. And some of the things that's important to people include a hybrid work arrangement. People are asking for that, and that's very real. So those are the trends that we're seeing, and I'm sure that with this ongoing conversations, we can find out more.
Absolutely, thank you. We were never going to get through a talent summit without AI being mentioned, so we got there early. David, maybe you can talk about some of the overall trends, maybe something about educational supply, which I know is one of your key insights.
Yeah, and again, thank you for the invitation to speak today. I've been coming to Hong Kong for more than a decade, and it's a real pleasure to be here. So I think the first thing to say is that Hong Kong is in an amazing position here. And the chief executive mentioned that there are 5 top 100 world-leading universities in Hong Kong. Hong Kong has 0.1% of the world's population. In terms of quality of universities compared to per capita, Hong Kong is punching 50 times above its weight. And show me another country in the world where you get that kind of leverage. It's pretty extraordinary. But my view is that it's not just about universities. I think this is a holistic way, or should be an holistic way, of developing talent. And that talent doesn't begin when students enter university. It starts at primary school. Lifelong learning and early age contributes ultimately to your pool that you will admit to your universities. And your universities need to take the best of local talent and to cultivate that so you retain it, or you're more likely to retain it at the end, balanced with some leading international scholars and educators. And getting that balance right, I think, is fundamental. It raises standards, people aspire, innovation naturally comes from this, and you have an inclusive society. Fionn mentioned that AI is the latest buzzword. We get questions on that all the way. But my view, if I'm being completely honest, is that an integrated education is a lot more important than challenging one bit of it that may be popular today but less popular next week. So before AI, it was computer science. Before that, it was electrical engineering and electronic engineering. Before that, it was civil engineering. So I've got this image of young people herding themselves around different subjects simply because they think it's popular. I think an integrated education where you can turn your attention to everything is a lot more important than that. So Hong Kong has the ability to start very early, to do better in attracting international talent for study and for teaching. And there's data in the UK that suggests that academics fail to produce their best work after the age of 53. So there's absolutely no hope for me. So if I wanted to invest in a world-leading educational and technical economy like Hong Kong, I'd be ploughing my resources into young people who can change the world, young people who can transform research and education, young people who, quite frankly, have got some serious problems to address. Global warming, climate change, an aging population, and guess what? We've just had a pandemic. It's these young individuals that are going to be solving these problems. And I think Hong Kong is extraordinarily well placed to do that. And the final point I want to make was, who could have not been impressed by Jacob's presentation about MTR? You know, what a global company that's making an impact on so many continents. That is transformational. I mean, that is a jewel in Hong Kong's crown. We need more initiatives like that coming out of Hong Kong. Thank you.
Great, excellent. Thank you, David. I've just realised I've got... Yep, absolutely. I've just realised I've got 3 years left if I want to contribute any of my time to research. Yeah. Alfred, I'm sure that you can add some observations, not just to supply, but also I know you're passionate about retention of talent after graduation and maybe some of the actions that Hong Kong can take.
Well, first of all, thank you, Matthew, for inviting us also to come here. And I was also about to say that I only have a few more years to catch up with my research before I turn to be useless. However, I think Hong Kong is in a very good position now to really attract global talents. First of all, Hong Kong government has been very successful for the past year in attracting global talents. There's many good, successful talent schemes that have attracted tens of thousands of new talents to come to Hong Kong. And so that is very good. But I really like your question that you asked, how to retain them. And so again, thanks to Ms. Xu Meng, who is in the audience, we have established a policy lab on global talents development and retention. And so in our research, we find that there are several factors that are very important. First of all, I think Hong Kong is in a very good strategic location. We have the language background. I think right now we're talking English, but we have simultaneous translation. Hong Kong embrace English, Mandarin, and Cantonese. And so I think this is a very good environment, and we should continue to emphasize that environment. I think also we are in very good position to retain talents because we do have very good educational opportunities. I think Professor Caswell mentioned that education is very important. I think we are in a good position to encourage continuous lifelong learning with all the education opportunities and also very good international schools here.
Absolutely, thank you. And really what we're going to move on to talk about is how do we benchmark Hong Kong, where it is right now, how are global talent hubs in the rest of the world shaping their talent attraction and retention strategies, and where does Hong Kong have this opportunity to excel? So we've talked a little bit about that around education. If I can just stay with you, Alfred, and with your own story of coming from across from the US to Hong Kong, and your understanding of some of these wider trends, how would you reflect on that?
Yeah. So personally, I came back to Hong Kong in 2021 after spending many years in the US. And so I could share a little bit from my own experience, what I experienced in the US. But also in my university, City University of Hong Kong has been ranked #1 in the QS ranking in internationalization. So we actually have a lot of colleagues who are coming from all parts of the world. And so based on their experiences and also our research, we find that actually Hong Kong could still be, could do better, but I think we are doing really well. In my own experience, I find that there are several factors that are very important and we should continue to brand it out more. One is, in fact, is what the chief executive has mentioned. We have the one country, two systems. And I think the world needs to know that more. Some of my colleagues in Europe, in other parts, they now understand that Hong Kong is part of China. But they don't quite understand that, oh, it's one country, two systems. And so we have a lot of unique strengths that we need to brand it out further. I also think that we need to embrace more diverse cultures here. We are now talking about One Belt, One Road. I just visited Saudi, I just visited Qatar and South Africa. There are a lot of good opportunities, and Hong Kong is in very good position to embrace all this. That means we need to continue to encourage that kind of multicultural environment, welcome them. And I think one thing I would like to emphasize, I think US has been doing really, really well, and Hong Kong could do even more, is welcoming people like you, Matthew. Right? In the US, one thing they are very good, and that's why they are #1 in talent attraction on different accounts, is they welcome people who are willing to contribute to the community, regardless of their ethnicity, gender, etc. And so Hong Kong has that potential, and we should welcome again people from different ethnic backgrounds to contribute to our community.
That's great, thank you. David, maybe any other examples from you and any statistics that you can bring to bear on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a few general comments to make to begin with. So as far as I can see it, and I mean, I know Hong Kong well now, is that Hong Kong has potential. But at the moment, that's all it has. We need to find ways that turn that potential into reality. The immediate obvious comparator for me is Singapore. And Singapore seems to do quite well in attracting and retaining talent. But for many reasons, Hong Kong should be doing better. I think Hong Kong can do better, and I think it can offer a lot more than Singapore, but I think there are a number of things that need putting in place. So, as a member of the UGC, I can honestly tell you that committee consists mainly of overseas academics, mainly vice-chancellors from leading international universities across the world. And UGC has an ability to make good decisions quickly. And the chief executive is completely behind Hong Kong universities. And the amazing thing for me is over our last 3 meetings, we've been able to make really substantial decisions. So significantly increasing research funding for Hong Kong universities. That decision took 3 months. In the UK, it would probably be 5 years, and then we'd conclude on an income cut. There was a concern that PhD student demand was outstripping supply. We increased the number of PhD students by 50%. That took 3 weeks. And in the last round, concern that the cap on international students was too low, it was doubled. So I get back to the UK mildly depressed that Hong Kong can make extremely good decisions, and everything the chief executive said, those policies are being implemented, and that's how you realize your potential. But if you look at PhD students, for example, they're in decline in the rest of the world. In Cambridge, we're struggling just to maintain our numbers. In Southeast Asia, in Hong Kong in particular, there's huge demand for PhD students. Now, that's an opportunity that you've got now that you need to take advantage of. But one of the things that you need to do is not just to take more PhD students, but to look at the infrastructure. We don't want to overload young academics with 10 or 11 PhD students. Nobody wins. It's in nobody's best interest. So we need to think about infrastructure as well as numbers. But these opportunities change globally, and they change with time. Hong Kong has a massive opportunity now with PhD students. And I think the final thing I want to say is that in order to attract good students from outside and good faculty, Hong Kong, I would suggest, would be better if its universities paired up and worked in some synergistic way to address specific targets. So, for example, we could have Hong Kong U and Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, great pairing. We could have Baptist University and Poly U. We could have City U and Chinese U, all working collectively to consistently develop potential markets in the US, Europe, and Australasia. And if we could do something like that, Hong Kong's fortunes could change overnight. The UK Premier League, the Indian Cricket League, is very high profile amongst many young people who want to come to Hong Kong. So we use those marketing opportunities. So I think there's a lot more that can be done. We're going to need to think radically, but a lot of it's about taking advantage of the opportunities that present themselves now and not what you think they might be in the future.
That's great. Thank you, David. Great insights. And Fionn, looking across the region, I guess is your purview. You see a lot of this data about how different organisations are reacting to the talent challenges that they face. What do you see as the trends within that, and how do you see Hong Kong operating within the region?
Yeah, coming to your question about the Global Talent Hub, it's interesting that when you look at attracting and retaining talent, it is always how the government, companies, the talent, education institutions are working together in order to make it a talent hub, in order to make it an attractive place. So the government policy that is in place to help encourage the upskilling, identifying what are the needs out there, and making sure that funds are available, skills upgrade is available for its people. When it comes to companies, I talk about how companies need to be aware. What does it take to retain your people? Dr. Jacob Kam talks about that in his speech, where he talks about talent retention involves internal mobility, creating opportunities for their people. Wage increase definitely is one thing that people are looking for. And the third one is flexibility, work-life balance. That's what young people are looking for. They don't just talk about work, they talk about that purpose of the company. So that clarity where companies can offer to people is going to help retain. And lastly, institutions, the role of education sector to help make sure that opportunities are given to people to grow and be able to land a job. So we work with many, in Singapore, in India, across the board. Actually, we create all these opportunities. LinkedIn has been very involved, working with the several governments and companies as well.
That's great. Thank you. And can I just stick with you for this next question? So we want to look at what the current future opportunities that Hong Kong has, that it can offer talents, including the efforts and the policies that we see by the government to attract and retain professionals. And so with you having that wider view, looking at how LinkedIn works maybe with other governments to provide upskilling, how they can attract and retain talent, what would you draw from any data points that you can point to for us?
Yeah, maybe I'll just start with a story, not, like in terms of the latest arrangement that we have with the Indonesia government. The Indonesia government appointed LinkedIn as the learning platform to actually help upgrade their state-owned enterprises, 1 million talent, 1 million workers, to help transform them in terms of their skills. So if you look at some of the initiatives across the board, be it from Singapore, Indonesia, or even India, we work with the UN in India, UN Women, to actually help upgrade their skills of women in India so that they can actually contribute to the workforce. So some of this, you would see that there's a lot of initiative that's being pushed out by several governments because they realize that it's no longer about the jobs, it's about the skills of the people. So if you, as I mentioned earlier, throughout the countries, skills is going to be in great demand. Like I mentioned, in Hong Kong, 76% of the skills is going to change. So if based on that stats, you will realize that if the people are not constantly upgrading their skills, the jobs is going to change. So how do we make sure that they have the jobs that is available for them so that they can continue to pursue and grow in their professional or in their career?
Absolutely. Thank you. And David, maybe at a GBA level, sort of looking at that unique situation that Hong Kong has, what do you see as the talent in southern China that could be a driving force for us? Any specific industry areas?
So I think this is a game changer for Hong Kong. Nowhere on the globe do you have the potential that Hong Kong has. I mean, Hong Kong is now a part of China. You've got that enormous resource, but in particular the geographical location, excellence in terms of universities in Hong Kong, all localized in a very small area. I mean, you could argue Singapore has something similar, but not quite so many universities. You've got Macau with established universities there, Guangzhou as well, and innovation. But for me, the real opportunity is Shenzhen. No world-leading universities in Shenzhen, but if you want to get something done commercially, technically, innovationally, there's probably nowhere better at the moment in the globe. Every time I go to Shenzhen, the building I marveled at during my last visit, I no longer marvel at because another building's been put in its way. So the rate at which Shenzhen is evolving, and I think if we can take elements of those different areas and put them together, that gives us an educational and innovation advantage. So it's not about getting Hong Kong to compete with Shenzhen or Macau or Guangzhou. It's about cherry picking where the strengths are and working with those strengths. And already Hong Kong universities are opening campuses in Shenzhen, which is the best way to go. They have the reputation. And we've got to continue to build on that. We've got to communicate that. And it's got to be enabled by mobility, and the chief executive announced that that's exactly what's happening. It's going to be easier for leading academics and researchers, technologists and innovators to come and work in Hong Kong and vice versa. So remove the bureaucracy, and then in addition to that, financial incentives to make the whole much, much, much better than the sum of the parts. And it comes back to this potential word, but it is unique potential. There is nowhere else in the world where this could be achieved. If we can bring international partners in as well, for me, that would be the icing on the cake. We just need to find a better way to increase the international contingent of this extremely exciting, innovative thing that's about to unfold. It's going to be hard work, but we just need to think it through better. But, tremendously exciting, however you look at this.
That's great. Thank you. Alfred, maybe just to close that question at a local policy level. So how do you see the current policies impacting the market? What do you think should be the ongoing focus for those to ensure sustained success?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I really appreciate the questions also about the policies, because I think policies really matter. I've been working in several projects with the Federation of Hong Kong Industries, the Textile Council, and also some of the cultural industries lately. When I talk to some of the business people, leaders, they mention that we want to do more, like sustainable development, sustainable fashion, cultural industry, but they need the policies to move first. And so Hong Kong is in a very good position to do that. I agree also with your point about the importance of bringing that potential into reality. And Hong Kong is well positioned in several ways. Number one, we do have very good research, and Hong Kong government lately just emphasized a lot on applied sciences. In my own university, in City University of Hong Kong, we just established something called Academy of Innovation. President Freddie Boy from Singapore initiated this in our university, emphasizing that it's important to bring the research into industries and focus on innovation and applied applications and sciences. And so we are working with industries, and with that, I think Hong Kong will be very good to bring the academic and the industry together. Let me also emphasize one thing. In some of the policy discussion, people talk about Hong Kong only have very little manufacturing, 1%. We may increase to 5%, right? But I think that figure is not totally complete. When I work with some of the industry leaders in Hong Kong, they actually have a lot of factories and manufacturing facilities in China, especially in the Greater Bay Area. I think there are a lot of local officials here from Greater Bay Area here in this conference. In fact, we have very close linkage. And so the fact that we're in Hong Kong, we have the finance, we have the education, we have the logistic management, but then we have the factories and manufacturing in the Greater Bay Area. Students, researchers here will be well positioned to bring into that network. And so we should welcome and also encourage more investors to come to Hong Kong. And also one thing that I think Hong Kong government, also the national government has benefited us a lot is the visa policies. Lately, I think there are about 14 countries that have visa-free to visit for 14 days. There are 50-some countries that could visit China for 144 hours. And so imagine companies from many of those countries could come and establish offices in Hong Kong, travel to China for 6 days, 14 days, do the research, do the business negotiation, come back to Hong Kong and go outside to the world to expand the businesses. I think Hong Kong is well positioned to do that, and so I'm very excited about all these opportunities. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Some really great insights. Originally, I was just going to ask you all to kind of summarize before we move on to the, some of the other questions that we have, but we have time. We're running well to time, so I'm going to jump out into some of these other questions, and we'll come back for your final thoughts at the end. One of the questions that we have from the audience, and in my profession, this is a frustration that I hear a lot, is many overseas young, experienced professionals wish to search for job opportunities in Hong Kong, but don't speak Cantonese or Mandarin. Where do we see the opportunities for these candidates in the future? From my perspective, we have a documented talent outflow. We have a declining workforce in terms of size because of aging population. That's common in developed countries. So surely, with a shrinking talent pool, we're going to have to look outside of those core language skills in order to meet the needs in Hong Kong. Alfred, I know this has sort of been something that you've touched on before. Maybe to you first.
So first of all, I probably could say this since I'm a local Hong Kong, grew up in Hong Kong, I'm back in Hong Kong. I think this is something that we, the locals in Hong Kong, need to do better, in the sense that we need to embrace people with other language, cultural background more. And so the reality is that most Hong Kong students, young people especially, they're well trained in multiple languages, in English, in Mandarin, in Cantonese. And so for workers who are coming from other ethnicity, cultural background, who are not fluent in Cantonese, we need to embrace them and welcome them and work with them when they speak to us in Mandarin or English. That's okay. We could change channel, 轉台, anytime. 普通話, 廣東話, English, no problem, right? So this is our beauty, and so we need to embrace that work and living culture in Hong Kong. That's number one. I think the other side is also because of AI with technologies. We probably could also use some more technologies to do more instant translation. And so those are some of the opportunities we later could explore more.
Good link back to the AI question. Are we seeing that utilization of AI for language translation actively working anywhere? Do you see that, Fion?
Well, definitely seeing AI working its way into the work. I think jobs used to be, people define their jobs in terms of the titles. But if you take a step back, job is really made up of multiple tasks. And the task that is cumulatively into this, defining this job, there is a lot of work being done to understand the autonomous, the repetitive, the ones that can be automated. Those are the areas that is going to be, that AI can actually work its way into the job itself. And, interestingly, some of the top AI skills that is being seen is actually in creative writing, in communications. Speaking of that, because AI can actually, with a few prompts, actually write a great piece of work for you. But it still requires the human part of things, the EQ, your judgment, your ability to actually look at it and judge the piece and see whether how do you make the right edit and make it sound like you and doesn't sound like a robot, so as to address what's needed to solve the problem. So AI can definitely help a lot of it in terms of the language, but it still requires that soft skills, that problem-solving skills of the human touch. to finish the final work.
I think it's been a cliche now that AI won't steal your job, but someone that knows AI will. I see that at many conferences, and I think that's quite a good summary. David, maybe I can pose this question to you, which is really the flip side of that first question I asked, which is how to balance the attraction of global talent with the development of local talent. And I know that you have some sort of strong, passionate views on primary education all the way through that you touched on. Maybe you could talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, so one of the challenges is the incompatibility of education, particularly between the ages of 16 and 18 across the world. So I think about 15 years ago, Hong Kong introduced a DSC, a Diploma of Secondary Education, which is a radically different way of educating students pre-university. It's much more of a broader education. But of course, if you then want to study in the UK, you're going to find that difficult because we have A-levels, which are a much narrower education. If you want to study in the US, it's going to be easier because it's a broader education focused on the liberal arts. So this isn't a debate about which is best and which isn't, probably neither. Probably IB is about as good as you're going to get. But to be able to cope with the mismatch in education for our young people, but then still think we can promote them to a global education. And I think there's a miscontinuity there. And young people need to be prepared early on to know what to do to change their education if they want to study in another system that they haven't been trained for. And I think people like me, parents, teachers, admissions tutors in universities are all responsible for that. But again, so many times I see 3 months before people apply, what can I do? Well, it's too late. It really starts, as I said, at primary school. Young people are these empty vessels, they just want filling with knowledge. And our job is to keep that inquiring mind going. And then as they go through puberty and competition kicks in, to manage their mental well-being through that process. So by the time they get to 16, they've made fully informed decisions about the courses that are right for them. And many people say, I come to Hong Kong to get people to apply to Cambridge. That's absolutely not why I come to Hong Kong. I come here to help people, young people, make the best decisions for them. And when they've spoken to me, quite often, that is, they don't want to apply to Cambridge, and that's fine. But the notion that they don't need support until 3 months before they apply to university is the problem that we face and is the problem that we need to address. And we'll only do that by working together, but there's still a long way to go. And this incompatibility between education between 16 and 18 still causes me to lose sleep, because often students end up in the wrong place with the right qualifications or vice versa. And it's not in their best interest for that to happen.
Thank you. Alfred, you're nodding there, so I'm gonna come to you to follow up on that.
I think indeed it's very important to match the skill set and also embracing technologies. But I want to emphasize a few points, deviate a little bit, but related. Number one is that we talk a lot about welcoming young people. And I think that's very important, especially think about the demographic trends, both in Hong Kong as well as in mainland China. Mainland China is also facing some aging population issues. And so while we are trying to attract a lot of talents now into Hong Kong, that is not enough in the long run. If you look at the demographic trends in the world, the places that have growing population will be in the Middle East, in Africa, in a lot of the other developing economies. And so for Hong Kong to be striving in the long run, we need to embrace people who are very different from us. And so how we have that culture, embrace those young people to come to Hong Kong, give them a welcoming environment, despite the cultural worldview, ethnicity differences, and language differences is very important. And so with that, I think that's number one. We need to be more inclusive on that. But at the same time, we're going back to some of the earlier points about welcoming young people. I think it's also important for us to recognize that we are all getting older. I mean, many societies are getting older. And so how to actually also get the older generation to work with younger generations, to have that multi-generational mentoring is very important. We have some experiences that they don't have, and so we can help them. And also, I think from a longer perspective in terms of talent development as well as technology development, how we embrace what I call inclusive smart city is very important. Meaning that in these, there will be some population groups who may not be tech savvy. And we just need to embrace that. And so that means we still need human touch interaction to help them. And so how we embrace that and use our talents to let them use the technology services without knowing that they're actually using technologies. And so I think that's the future that we could embrace our young people, encourage our young people to think about how to work across generations in Hong Kong, and also across ethnic groups in Hong Kong.
I think I'll just add that, we talk about education and we talk about the young people. Actually, what we see on the platform is also quite revealing that actually on every day, there are 200,000 hours spent on the LinkedIn Learning platform. And Gen Z form a major part of it. In fact, in 2030, 56% of our workforce is going to be Gen Z. And they spend a lot of time making sure that they are actually kept up to date on the latest skills that they need to acquire. So they are well aware that the formal education is one part of it, but the ability to learn and reskill and acquire new skill is going to be essential because the world of work is changing very quickly.
I think that's important. It's sort of a democratization of learning, right? Is that nobody has those barriers and you don't have to wait for somebody else to teach you anymore because it's available to you. Just conscious of time, so I'm going to draw us back to closing comments. So based on the insights that we've gained from this discussion, all those global benchmarks that you have, one or two key priorities that you would say to help enhance Hong Kong's talent ecosystem. Fion, maybe I'll start with you.
Well, I'll start with saying that AI is real, and I think it's going to be part of how we think about work itself. Like, work is made up of several tasks that AI will have an impact on how it works its way into automating some of the work that we do every day. So I think it's essential for every one of us to understand how AI is going to impact us. So the top skills, from creative writing to jobs that you think won't be impacted by AI, all of that is actually some of the top skill that is being displayed right now by this profession. So that's number one. Number two, I think the need to keep on acquiring new skills is going to be important from each individual. And thirdly, for companies to keep on investing into a human-centric, creating opportunities, because it's not enough to acquire and hire new people. You will run out of the people that you can hire. So the need to retain, retrain, and create opportunities for your people is going to be important. So that together, when all this work together, you can actually truly create a global talent hub.
Great, thank you, Fion. David?
I come back to a point I made earlier, and that is that things like pandemics don't recognize borders. The problems that we have to solve on a global basis. They're worldwide problems. And I think Hong Kong needs to play its role in promoting those solutions. Hong Kong needs to continue to work hard to develop partnerships. And if I could just give you a quick example of one. So Cambridge University and Hong Kong U have a dual degree scheme where students spend 2 years at Hong Kong U, 3 years at Cambridge. For that, they get 4 degrees from 2 world top 25 universities, and it costs them less to study than it would do in 4 years at Cambridge. It's a completely unique initiative. Hong Kong students come to Cambridge and do extraordinarily well academically, but they then raise awareness within UK students that there are opportunities in Hong Kong as well, so the flow's both ways. It enables Hong Kong to recruit better students from mainland because they think it's another way into Cambridge, and so the talent pool gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then when people come here, the emphasis is on cultural integration. So I can say personally, I've never felt more welcome anywhere I've been, anywhere in the world, than Hong Kong. And that's the reason I keep coming back here. I made the fortunate decision in 2013 to do a year sabbatical here. It was either here or the States. And thank goodness I chose Hong Kong because, the pleasure I've had out of repeatedly visiting this country and how welcoming and friendly everybody's been. And I think we need to communicate that better. Hong Kong is a genuinely friendly, embracing and cultural place that it's great to be a visitor. rather than a foreigner. And I think there's a big difference there. So Hong Kong needs to keep doing what it's doing, but it needs to work harder on developing these relationships. And as I mentioned earlier, if Hong Kong universities hunt in pairs, I think they can tear trees up. And I don't mean that in a bad environmental way. And I think we can do a lot better.
That's great. Thank you, David. Alfred?
I will summarize with 3 E's. Number one, I really agree with you to engage them. Bring them over. I invited some of my friends from Italy, from the Middle East. Ask them to come. I invite my friends from Singapore. You mentioned Singapore. I tell my Singaporean friends, you come to Hong Kong, within 1 hour, you go up to the mountain and do hiking. Within 1 hour, you go jump into the ocean and do swimming. Only Hong Kong could do it, not New York City, not Singapore, not many other parts of the world. And so invite them to come and experience. I have someone from Harvard coming over, and once he had experienced Hong Kong, he said, when will I come again? Right? So engage them and then educate them. I think there are a lot of good policies, a lot of good things happening in Hong Kong that a lot of people outside Hong Kong do not know. And so we need to educate them about the policy, environment, the new possibilities here. And finally, I think indeed is to ask them to come and experience all this. It's one thing to tell them, it's another thing for them to come here and experience that personally. So, thank you.
That's great, thank you. I think just drawing all that together, we definitely see that we have a shrinking workforce for various structural reasons and post-pandemic challenges to deal with. But Hong Kong has a huge amount to offer, and it's great to see speakers here very passionate about the potential and the future of Hong Kong, and with government initiatives to drive more in terms of AI, fintech, biotech, alternative energy, these growth industries that definitely we can leverage the partnerships that we have in the Greater Bay. Hong Kong will have a bright future, but as organizations, everybody has to be looking at their own systemic barriers and what they need to do to embrace a more diverse talent in the future. So with that, I think that's almost perfect. 30 seconds left on the clock. My thank you to our panelists, Fionn, David, and Alfred.
Thank you.
Thank you. Another big round of applause to thank our panel members, including Professor Cardwell, Professor Ho, and Ms. Zhang for sharing your insights with us. And thank you, Matthew, for moderating the session for us. Well, our speakers shed light on the topic and really told us a lot about the trends and preferences of the current generation and also our next generation on career planning and their personal development. And most importantly, they also tell us about the advantages of Hong Kong and why is Hong Kong the best place for talents to be at. Thank you once again to the panel. Our next panel will center their discussion on the subject of creating a corporate culture embracing global talent. It will cover how global MNCs and institutions build international cultures that are still sensitive to the local context, the current corporate cultures and their implications for the long-term development of global talents, the strategies employed by governments and corporates to attract, include, and develop global talents, and best practices for building competitive advantages through multicultural, multilingual, adaptive, and embracing organizational cultures in Hong Kong. Well, before we invite the panel onto the stage, once again, a reminder for our audience to participate in the Q&A session. You can simply scan the QR codes on the screen right now to submit your questions, and our moderators will bring your questions to the panel members at an appropriate time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's join me in welcoming onto the stage Mr. Ashwin T, Chief Executive Officer and President, Big C Supercenter Public Company Limited. Please welcome. Next, may we invite Mr. Jai Bulani, Chief Executive Officer, IBT. Please welcome. Now may we invite Mr. Peter Brown, MBE, Partner and Global Workforce Leader, PwC United Kingdom. Please welcome. Now please also welcome on stage Mr. Wan Hua Bin, Deputy Chief Executive, Bank of China, Hong Kong Limited. And again, Mr. Matthew Golub, Managing Director of Connected Group, will help to moderate the session for us. Please welcome Matthew as well again. Now our guests are ready and the stage is yours, Matthew.
Thanks again. Okay, me again. Maybe I should have changed outfits so that I look different this time. This session, we are looking at creating corporate culture. So we are, moving from a slightly more macro view down into how do we embrace global talent at an organizational level. So for global talent to flourish long-term in a city, a genuinely inclusive, supportive infrastructure and corporate culture is vital. So this panel will examine how corporations and institutions are cultivating unique corporate cultures that foster belonging in order to attract and retain global talent. Additionally, this discussion will highlight the significance of a positive, sustainable culture in driving organizational success and underscore Hong Kong's ambition to be a vibrant, welcoming hub for a diverse pool of talent. So we have a great panel. Our panelists, if I start at this end, Aswin is the Chief Executive Officer and President of the Big C Supercentre Public Company Limited. Based in Thailand, Aswin is CEO of Thailand's leading hypermarket chain. He brings diverse perspectives and experiences to leadership, fosters a collaborative and inclusive culture within the organization, and his remarkable leadership has been recognized as a young global leader by the World Economic Forum and a business leader of the year by CNBC. We also have Jai Malani, Chief Executive Officer, IBT. Jai, currently based in the UAE, is the founder and CEO of IBT, which is a business processing outsourcing company with a vision to revolutionize the industry. Whilst IBT has become a top BPO company in the region, Jai's leadership has also been recognized with the CEO of the Year award this year, and it's under his leadership that IBT has grown into a vital pillar empowering businesses across the UAE to thrive in a dynamic and competitive market. Then we have Mr. Peter Brown, MBE, partner, global workforce leader, PwC, based in the UK. Peter leads the global people and organization practice that has over 7,500 practitioners in 138 countries and regions, advising clients on all elements of people and workforce to help them create and implement strategies that enable sustainable business, financial, regulatory, and customer outcomes. Peter is passionate about making the workplace a more equitable, diverse and inclusive place. He's also a PwC social mobility ambassador, which works to open up professional services to people of all backgrounds. And I think my favorite fact I have here is that Peter was listed as one of the UK's 50 leading lights in the Kindness in Leadership Awards in 2022. And finally, we have Mr. Wang, Deputy Chief Executive of Bank of China, Hong Kong. Currently based in Hong Kong, Mr. Wang is the, as I said, Deputy Chief Executive, as one of the 3 note-issuing banks and the sole clearing bank for the RMB business in Hong Kong. Bank of China, Hong Kong has a strong market position in all major businesses, supported by leadership from the senior management, including Mr. Wang. Mr. Wang is well versed in international financial markets with extensive experience in international settlement and corporate credit businesses. And the good news is I don't have to introduce myself again because you already met me on the last panel. So we have quite a bit to get through in this panel. And my first question is going to be sort of from your different contexts and backgrounds, to share some strategies that you've seen employed by governments and corporates to attract and develop global talents. So again, starting at a slightly higher level, and then we'll drill down. If I could start with you, Peter. The PwC conducted a hopes and fears survey, which probably gives us some insights. Any examples of regions, countries that perform well in that? Comment as to why? Any clients or PwC as an example, maybe?
No, good morning, and thank you for that kind introduction, Matthew. You're right. So I lead one of the surveys we do at PwC, which is called Hopes and Fears. It's the largest survey of workers around the world, and we do it around about this time of year. So we're just currently doing the field work for this year's survey. And what we're trying to do there is just figure out what's on the mind of workers around the world. And we do it deliberately to balance against what we release at the start of the year. At the start of the year, we survey CEOs. It's called the PwC CEO survey. We launched it at Davos. We did it again this year for the 27th time. And I think, getting to your question, right, I think about my role in PwC. So PwC, we are a global professional services firm with some 345,000 colleagues around the world. So this challenge around attracting, retaining, motivating talent is something that's front of mind of all of us in PwC. You know, for us to be relevant to our clients and to the organisations we work with, we've got to have a workforce of talented, skilled colleagues who are representative of the clients in which we serve. So it's something that's constantly on our minds. So we're in 157 territories around the world with a large volume of colleagues. Now, if I turn to that first survey we do each year, the CEO survey, this year, so globally, 45% of CEOs say that unless their organisation changes in the next 10 years, they will become irrelevant to their customers, to their stakeholders, to their colleagues, to their workforce. In APAC, it's slightly more pessimistic. 63% of CEOs say their organisation needs to reinvent, to change, to transform, to maintain that relevance. And then if I bridge over to what workers are saying, broadly consistent globally, 40% of workers say that, you know, unless their organisation change, they agree. And we know that workers are up for that transformation, for that reinvention challenge. And I think, look at all transformations over the years, and I think it was alluded to in the last platform, whether we're talking about AI, computer science, whatever the niche requirement is, and that's not to underplay the significance of those, a constant is actually human beings, human capability. And again, CEOs tell us that every year for the 25 of the 27 years we've done the PwC CEO survey. They say that human skills and getting that talent are critical. Critical thinking, problem solving, able to network, be innovative, all those kind of things are front and centre of mind. So I think that focus around workers. And I think, you know, despite some of the challenges around some parts of the world at the moment, and maybe a slight depression in terms of mobility of workers, you know, the cliche of the war for talent is over. Well, I think it is over because I think talent won. And the reality is talented and skilled individuals have a choice. And so organisations, countries, territories have really got to create, you know, an environment which attracts those skilled people. Now, clearly being paid fairly is probably number one on workers' mind, but there's so many more variables that organisations have to get right at the same time. So we've come out of a pandemic where many people around the world have lived their lives on devices 24/7, and they expect that kind of consumer-grade technology in the workplace. Not having that's not an option. They expect to work for an organisation that's got a clear purpose, beyond just a financial return. What does the organisation stand for? They want to work for an organisation where leaders listen, actively listen, and embrace their ideas. They want to work for an organisation that is serious about inclusion and diversity. And they also want to work for an organisation which is serious about investing in them as a human being and their skills, such that they remain relevant in the world of work. So there's a whole host of things for organisations to get right. And I think what I'm privileged to see with the organisations I work with personally, and as an organisation, there are some organisations and countries that are really getting to grips around that. And for example, I know in Hong Kong, the TTPS scheme is a phenomenal way of attracting, I think, you know, talent from around the world. I was very privileged. I lived and worked in Hong Kong some 25, 30 years ago. I know what a vibrant place Hong Kong is. You're a hub of innovation. You're a hub of you know, just cultures, ideas, and you have been over the years. Many large international organisations started life in Hong Kong over 100 years ago. So I think, you know, Hong Kong actually on things like TPS, the talent exchange are just brilliant initiatives to attract that skilled work that is required to deliver that reinvention, the transformation that we know leaders and workers are saying is required to maintain relevance.
Thanks, Peter. Definitely a long list of expectations that talent has that needs to be met. Jai, can I come to you? I think we're going to hear later from a speaker about the Middle East and the UAE in particular, how they've been evolving their approach to be a more employee-friendly location and region. With your business based out of the Middle East, how have you been viewing that? How has that shifted the way that organizations approach talent?
Good morning. Thank you for having me here. So I come from Middle East, to be specific, from Dubai. Now, Middle East have been known for, few decades ago, it was known for oil and gas based economy, but not anymore, thanks to the leadership of the region, especially leadership of the UAE, and thanks to the people who have made the region so beautiful. Now, how did government and the region have attracted a lot of talent worldwide? We have more than 200 nationalities living in the region. So this journey have not started recently. 20, 30 years ago, when Middle East was oil and gas based economy, the leadership had very clear vision that they want to be the number one, and not one or two, but many of the sectors. So since 1990, say 1980 and 1990, Middle East is blessed by Arabian Sea. So the port area they have used and utilized to become world's one of the largest economy for logistics and trading. Then they moved their focus to tourism. Now we have tallest building, tallest hotels, biggest mall in our region. And when we talk about tourism, the hospitality is one of the best globally when we speak about Middle East, especially Dubai, UAE. Then the focus of the leadership moved to real estate. We got worldwide investment in the region for real estate. Then it moved to business easiness in the region. If we talk about setting up a business today, you can go to Dubai, set up a company in one day. I mean, you go to the authorities, give your documents, and you leave in 2-3 hours with your trade license. So the infrastructure is phenomenal in Middle East. Now, this has been a really long journey for our leadership and also for people. So in being successful in so many sectors, they have acquired talent from the globe. And every time, whenever the any sector have grown amazing, they have came up with the new policies and new processes to retain and get more talent from the world. So this is how the leadership of Middle East have done everything possible to have talent globally and retain them in the region.
That's great, thank you. I think I set up a business in 2004, and it definitely didn't take one day back then, so it's improved a lot. Mr. Wang, can I ask you to draw on your view within Hong Kong, and what are you seeing here with the latest policies and the demands on talent for your organization?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here today. I'd like to respond this question from two angles, personally. Firstly, I think as one of the leading international financial center in the world and the super connector between mainland China and the world, Hong Kong has always been very attractive to global talents. That's no doubt. Nevertheless, to continuously maintain its competitiveness has never been an easy job at all. So I think to achieve this, the Hong Kong SAR government has implemented so-called Compete for Talents and Enterprises scheme, including a few measures such as the TTP scheme and liberalizing the admission of mainland professionals, etc. And more importantly, Hong Kong government not only introduced a high-level policy, but also offer a lot of support on the practical level. For example, they are establishing the talent engage office and also setting up a special online platform to provide one-stop services for the global talents who, come to Hong Kong, help them to settle down in Hong Kong. So I believe these measures will help Hong Kong to further strengthen its competitiveness in attracting global talents. But for BOC Hong Kong, as one of the leading banking group in Hong Kong, and also a main employer in financial sector, as you may know, we hire more than 12,000 talents, with different backgrounds in Hong Kong markets. So we warmly welcome, and also I think we will benefit from all this, schemes attracting talents introduced by the government. So therefore, we actively engage with the public sector to achieve the win-win results. We try our best to attract more talent to join Bank of China. And also, we also make some contribution to promote Hong Kong as a global talent hub. For example, we host a Talent for the Future seminar in collaboration with the Hong Kong Quality and Talent Migrants Association. So this seminar actually provides very valuable information and advice to those professionals who want to come to Hong Kong. We provide lots of information, for example, including the housing or schooling or career development, etc. So to summary very briefly, personally, because I'm the new joiner to Hong Kong, I'm very confident that Hong Kong will continuously be one of the top choices for global talents, particularly in financial and the services sector.
That's great, thank you. Aswin, last but not least on this question, I'm sure we're going to be keen to hear about the expansion plans of your business later, but maybe some insights on Thailand and its efforts to attract global talent. We've definitely seen more global talent coming from Hong Kong around the region and being based out of Bangkok. What's your view on that?
Thank you. Thank you, Matthew. So thanks for having me here. It's always good to be warmly welcome to Hong Kong. And this is also Hong Kong charms to attract talents globally. So from Thailand, we have a lot of things to do. And this is based on my personal opinion, not from any official view from the country itself. But first of all, for any countries globally to attract people, we have to create opportunities to grow professionally and to live sustainably in any country that we plan to do. For Thailand, there's still many things that we need to do in order to create jobs and growth opportunities for the people. But also one lucky thing is that we have the country. We have many provinces where we have nice neighborhood, and we now have been taking ways to live sustainably, many green energy projects, many new green initiatives that we try to do in the country, and many beaches in Phuket or in Chiang Mai, in the mountain area or in Bangkok. So we have that, but still the clear thing is that how we can create environment that we can entice global talent to be in Thailand. We believe that talents want to be associated with talents. They want to work with people who can help them grow professionally, and also at the same time, companies in Thailand, we need to create an environment that they can expand and then can also expand their boundaries and to grow. We have many things to learn from Hong Kong. Hong Kong has many things to offer. For example, the support from China, and at the same time, and also many global companies operated in Hong Kong. So these are the things that we need to do. The Thai government now have embarking on many important projects such as Land Bridge, which is a big giga-billions projects that they need to expand so that we can cut down logistic time. from the west part of Thailand to the eastern part of Thailand, so they don't have to go to the Singapore or Malaysia now to go to the Pacific Ocean. So these are some examples that we try to do. Eastern Economic Corridor is something that we would like to create a special zone for manufacturing, especially for the high-tech communities, data centers. And last week we just welcomed the chairman of Microsoft to Thailand, and he also mentioned that to expand to data centers, and we have many green electricity projects to support all types of the data center. So these are the things that we need to do, but the reality we have to wait, because it takes time. Because in order to be the global destination, we need to ensure that the fundamentals like universities, academic institutions, we need to be strong enough to develop our management skills and also technical skills. Most of the things that Hong Kong already have that in place. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you for those insights. So let's move on to this idea of having an international corporate culture that also balances the local context, right? And I think that's based on our previous panel as well, some of the challenges that we can face in Hong Kong. Peter, maybe I can ask you first. Sort of PwC is a global business. And obviously has to adapt to local cultures. You work with clients that probably face some of the same challenges. How do you see this being dealt with in the best way?
If I start with the word culture, because I hear it bandied around a lot, as I'm sure many of you do, this culture, and for me it's such a critical enabler of what you're trying to do as a business. And simply put, the way I just defined it is just how stuff gets done. It's kind of the identity of an organisation, how it looks, how it feels. How does it feel for people to work there, for your customers to engage with you? I say that because so often I see sort of culture sort of thrown away as always just a fluffy thing that isn't important. It's so important, I think, to really focus on culture and to get that right. And if I go back to one of the things that drives us and many of our clients, right? If some of the data from the hopes and fears, only 50% of workers around the world say that they feel kind of connected to the organisation in which they work. And you might think, well, so what? Why is that important? I think it's important back to where I started around this era of transformation, of reinvention, in which all organisations are going through in order to maintain their competitive edge, to maintain their relevance against some huge challenges. The previous panel we talked about the climate challenge, disruptive technology, ageing workforces, geopolitical tensions around the world, and social instability. They're huge things that the human race has got to deal with, as well as organisations. So it's a really, really hard time to actually lead, I think, and work in that environment. So I think one really focusing on cultural levers. To your point around PwC, as I mentioned before, so we're in 157 territories. We are so diverse and so inclusive, and I love that about the organisation. And it's not totally by accident. So globally, we're totally aware of the fact of we've got to be attuned to regional and local differences. All member firms of the PwC network are part of the Inclusion and Diversity Council. They will sign up to two metrics around inclusion and diversity. One is actually around gender, and the other is any other metric or variable that's important in the local context of the territory firm. And I think for us that allows us to get that sort of, there are globally some things that are things that we really want to drive, but it really taking into account of the local market and territory. Secondly, we're a member of the World Economic Forum Parity Alliance, and that's an organisation where many corporations sign up around promoting inclusion and diversity around the world to create that more equitable workforce. And then if I think some examples again at PwC around how we're trying to drive that. So the way we recruit our people, we go to sort of non-traditional ways of doing that. Historically, you could only join PwC if you had a degree from a certain college or university. In some of our territories, the UK included, we've dropped that requirement, so we no longer require a specific bar. We open up a very vibrant higher apprenticeship scheme, and we try and hire really now what some would call a skills-first approach. So we hire for skills and aptitude as opposed to job titles and degree titles. And we're doing that because we do live in this world of a shortage of skills. So we need to be more creative to open up more opportunity for talent. I did some research with the World Economic Forum at the start of this year. It was called Skills First. Many organisations actually, because they don't interrogate the data they have on their employee base, or they don't know what they don't know, there's so much untapped potential within organisations around skills. So I think what we're seeing a lot of organisations doing is breaking down traditional jobs into component skills, and that actually allows you to be able to move skills to the moment of need at the moment of time. Now, there are many things that get in the way in those culturally. Often people get in the way of themselves, so historical ways of making decisions, processes, things that have worked for 60, 70 years, I think they need to be changed in order to be relevant going forward, which is why I think many of the organisations we work with are moving to a much more skills-first approach, a journey-based model where it's really centred around the employee, the skills they have, and how do they develop those to make those people even more relevant and be able to move them into the right places at a time of their needs, such that they can maintain their relevance for their organisation and their customers.
Great, thank you, Peter. Aswin, as I mentioned, your business expanding outside of Thailand, coming to Hong Kong, I believe. How do you balance that organisational culture, Thai culture, and then adapting to the local business culture as well?
Thank you, Matthew. Before coming to Hong Kong, our BJC in Big C have about 60,000 employees in 7 countries out of the 10 in Southeast Asia. So we always take culture, local culture, very close to our heart because we operating in Laos, Cambodia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Vietnam. So we always have our strong team there. We have to act locally, think regionally. So we already have that in perspective in our mind. And before Hong Kong, we already have sourcing office in Guangzhou. So we exposed into different culture from the start. But Hong Kong is actually very unique because what they have to offer at the same time, a strong Oriental values, and strong support from China. At the same time, has been a global city in many last decades. So Hong Kong for us is a unique blend of the Western and the Eastern culture. So when we enter into this market last July, actually it's quite the decision making is very simple. And when we Thailand as a country had opportunity to host APEC meeting into 2022, and the chief executive John Lee came to Thailand, and they have they had the opportunity to host the Thai business people in a small group, and then he extend arms and open doors, as he mentioned today, to the Thai business to have opportunity to invest in Hong Kong. So we took that opportunity, and 6 months later, we in Hong Kong. Now we have 25 stores. We have to do more in Hong Kong. And so for us, working with the Hong Kong team is very important. We learn a lot from them, and we is a world-class operators in this sector, in very competitive sectors. So for us, we have to adjust also. But now the key for us is to engage and have the people-to-people connection with the whatever employees in whatever country that we operate. So we take that very seriously.
And do you, just to add to that, do you see the learning going back the other way when you go to other locations? You pick up best practices.
Yes, that's right. The key for us is to grow top talents in whatever country we operate, and we aspire to have our top team to come from each country. And at the same time, we also would like to expose them to different cultures. The first conversation we have with our Hong Kong team is that we also would love our Hong Kong team to lead operation in outside Hong Kong as well. Because now the carry part for our Hong Kong team is not just only Hong Kong or China, but in other Southeast Asian countries. When we come to, at the same time, we also would love to have our Thai team, Cambodian team, Lao teams to work in Hong Kong and Greater China. That's how we can blend and create a coherent culture Southeast Asian plus Hong Kong and plus global culture in our organization.
Thank you. Mr. Wang, can I ask you to sort of share about culture building at BOCHK and maybe some of your experience of coming here into the business?
Of course, thank you, Matthew. As you may know, BOC Group actually is a true MNC. We're operating in more than 60 countries and regions recently. Actually, as the day one, the Bank China Group establishment, we have the international DNA in our blood because we are dedicated to be a foreign exchange or the international settlement bank. And as the first and the key member, overseas member of BOC Group, BOC Hong Kong also benefit from this legacy of being international. And BOC Hong Kong, itself became a real regional bank after it is acquired non-Southeast Asian subsidiaries in the branch in 2017. More importantly, I think we serve thousands of MNCs, including both corporate and institutions. So therefore, our customers and our counterparties in our business, has been very international. So this all factors, require us, even push us to be international, to build up a international culture. I have to say it's a really challenging job for myself and my colleagues. But so far, we do not very bad job. And we, always been very committed to, fostering a very open and very people-oriented international culture. That do help us to attract lots of talents with different background and build up a very outstanding professional workforce. To wrap up what we do right, I think three things come into my mind. Firstly is in integration. I think the most important is the integration of the culture establishment with our business strategy. So we try our best to fully embed our culture established with our business strategy. So that's the, when we do these things right, I think other aspects of integration become much easier. For example, the international standard with the local practice and also different background staff integration and also our Hong Kong headquarters with other Southeast Asia branches subsidiaries. So that's the first point. Second, takeaway is the innovation culture. So I think any organization operating in different markets will face the barriers or conflict, caused by different market, different legal system or regulation system, and also even language. But to tackle this challenges, the most effective way, from my point of view, is to explore and also some common topics, and also maximizing the positive effect of these common topics. I think the science, technology, digitalization, or ESG, these topics, this type of common topics is very important for us. So I think the innovation culture will be very, very critical for this kind of common topic to root and flourish in your organization. So, for example, recently we take a few actions like innovation contest among within the bank, and also we also introduced a CDO position in different business area, and also we create a ESG academy within the bank. So all these actions actually help us to build up kind of positive flywheel to establish the innovation culture. The last but not least is to be open and also inclusive. I don't think any organization won't want to be open and inclusive, but this thing I think is easy easier to say than do. So that's very important. I think the 3 key words from my side is firstly is the willingness. The second is the commitment, especially the commitment from the top management. I think our practice is the top management always deliver very clear message to the whole bank. You know, we are very committed to be international, to be open, and to be inclusive. The last one is the execution. I think for our organization, I think leverage the policy procedure to encourage and motivate very open culture is the critical. So we actually, for example, we introduced a few schemes to encourage the exchange of our staff to expand their expertise horizon, and also we encourage headquarters staff go to Southeast Asia branches to take the local roles, and also some other actions. These a few actions I think really help us to build up a very dynamic and vibrant kind of culture. Thank you.
That's great, thank you. And echoes Peter's earlier point that culture is what you do, not just what you say and what goes on within your organisation. Jai, I want to come to you because your business model has an additional complexity. So outsourcing, offshoring, you're building external teams to support corporate cultures. How does this play out for you in terms of your international growth and those cultural complexities that you see?
So when we started business in Dubai, initially we grew within the country, which is UAE. Then we started our service delivery center in India. So we failed miserably because I was born in India. So I thought we know the corporate culture, people mindset, the local culture in the city itself. We thought we know that. But it's entirely different because I left India 20 years ago and I have spent 20 years in Dubai. So things have changed, right? So what we did is we established a local leadership team in India. 60 or 70% of our corporate culture, corporate governance, corporate policies are made in our headquarters. And 30 or 40% of the policies and culture related corporate governances, we have empowered local leaders within the country to establish and run the business in the country. Now, we, IBT being outsourcing and offshoring company, as a CEO, my biggest job is to retain employees and control the attrition ratio because our business is based on people, outsourcing and offshoring, whether it's on-site, within the country or offshore. So people are the most essential part of our business. Now, after India, when we moved to Saudi Arabia, we thought, we being a Middle Eastern company, we know Saudi Arabia. But again, it was not that great experience. So we replicated execution style what we implemented in India. We had a local leadership team in Saudi Arabia as well. Saudi leadership team was empowered to take the local and regional decisions to make sure the attrition ratio doesn't go more than 5% or 6%. And that's how, by failing and learning, and again failing and learning, we have grew and made sure that attrition ratio is always maintained, emphasizing on employee retention in our business.
That's great, thank you. Always good to hear about the failures along the way, and that's always a great learning experience. I'm just mindful of time, so I'm just going to draw together a couple of our final questions so that we can involve some of the audience questions as well. And Jai has kind of moved into talking about some of those barriers that you've faced along the way, and then thinking about learning from those and the best practices for establishing multicultural, multilingual, adaptive, embracing organizational cultures. Aswin, maybe I can come back to you just in terms of that regional scope that you talked about. Maybe you could share with us some of the key barriers and how you've overcome them.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Matthew. This is a great question. I agree with what Peter mentioned about culture is very important. So one of the things, the challenges that we face in operating in different countries is the culture differences. It takes some time. It's just not the way people think in different countries, in different culture, the way they behave, the way they work, the way that we operate in business context. These things take some time. And the way we communicate, people in Vietnam communicate differently from the way that we work in Thailand. So the way we organize our office space, the way we organize activities that people can blend differently. In our hypermarket in Vietnam, we have fitness and gym inside the working area. In Thailand, it's different because because our store in Thailand from the Western culture, from the France. We got the asset from the French group that operating in Thailand, and also Carrefour store in Thailand. It's different from what we have. In Laos and Cambodia, the pace is a bit slower life. So the way we communicate with people in Laos, asking things to work, they do it at different pace. Hong Kong is also different. Hong Kong now, we try to adjust into the way that we work with our Hong Kong team. It takes some time. So the challenges that we face is the way that we interact people and try to get the best out of our team members here. Sometimes it requires opportunity to open minds with them. They also have a heart-to-heart interaction with them. So these are the things that we've been facing. But there's also the joy and also benefits. Once we in the same team share the same mindset and create a culture and operational that we can be proud. I think that will be very rewarding. Yeah.
Absolutely. Peter, maybe I can bring that one over to you in terms of integrating global talent into an organizational structure and then enabling that talent to become effective, productive. How do you see that operating?
I think many organizations spend a lot of time attracting, and Matthew, you probably know this from your companies. I think where a lot have a challenge though is then the retention part, which is really difficult. And I think in really simple terms is make sure the reality matches what you've told the candidate before they've joined. And often if there's a mismatch, you see some challenges there. But I think if you're saying you want to embrace new ideas, different ways of thinking and all the rest of it, then if the individual doesn't feel that and find that, then they'll typically look for an opportunity elsewhere. And I'll just make a point there around sort of data, right? So in the world in which we live and in terms of social media platforms, workers aren't afraid to tell people very quickly around that experience. So I think there's something about there. But I think the point around data, many organizations collect so much data on their employees, You Matter surveys, sentiment surveys, and yet do very little with it. I'm going to mention two letters that haven't been mentioned in this panel yet, but it would be a crime not to, which is AI and Gen AI, right? So the ability to use Gen AI now to exploit that data, to really understand what your workers are saying, what they want, is something I definitely advocate. Second thing I'd mention is just in this world where we are all sort of changing, transforming against the challenges, what we're seeing is a real disconnect in what leaders think and what workers think. So 58% of leaders, CEOs, will say their organization, their leadership tolerate small-scale mistakes and errors and agreeable dissent, i.e. having a slightly different point of view. If you ask workers the same question, that drops right down to 25%. And I say the reason that's important is if we are in a world of transformations, maintaining relevance, which we are, you need your workforce to be really safe and feel they're in an environment where it's okay to have a different point of view, to make small-scale mistakes. Right? And I think if you're innovating, you are going to be making mistakes if you're innovating at full stretch. I think the third point I just make, Matthew, is around focus on leadership. The challenges we face around the world at the moment are huge and in many cases existential. Think around the green transition, the power of Gen AI, disruptive technology in particular. We set up a couple of years ago the Centre for Transformative Leadership because so many of our client organisations and actually ourselves were just trying to figure out how do you lead in the context of the world in which we live, because there is no playbook. And I think focusing on leadership, both at the top level, but all the way through the organisation to enable your people to be empowered, equipped to deliver against the transformative agenda in which many of them are currently living today.
Great, thank you. We are just about to run out of time. I'm going to just ask one final question, Aswin, if I may, because I think there will be people interested in hearing this. You've probably seen the question come up. What was the driving force behind Big C's decision to enter Hong Kong, bearing in mind it is such a competitive environment?
Thank you. I saw the question here. So first of all, let me clarify. Big C is not in supermarket business. We are in retail, but we are also in people business. We are in people business because we're serving what's needs for people to live happily and sustainably. So we provide food, we provide non-food products. So having said that, we rather be in a country or in the region that very highly competitive, but also have higher growth than just less competitive country with lower growth. And Hong Kong can offer that. Hong Kong is part of the Greater Bay Area. For us, we look at Greater Bay Area, Hong Kong, and the other provinces, Guangdong provinces. It's such a high growth opportunity for us. And when we look at the Greater Bay Area, there's no such place as Hong Kong to be based here and base our business here that we can enter the Greater Bay Area better. That's why we look at the opportunities here, why we are still a small player, a new entrance in this country, but we also think that it's offer tremendous opportunity. And very importantly is that Hong Kong is such a hub for global talents. That's why we can leverage on the extremely important asset here to expand business regionally and globally in the future.
That's great, thank you. Definitely a job as an ambassador for Hong Kong ahead, I think, for you, Aswin. So we are out of time now. So just in summary, it's complex. What organizations need to do to attract talent is wide-ranging. Culture is not a simple one activity. It comes with a lot of communication, a lot of trial and error. And Hong Kong definitely has these challenges of a declining workforce that we've talked about, but it has the potential and the attractiveness to a global market to bring talent into Hong Kong. But you need to be, as organizations, prepared to build that scaffolding, to support the individual to come into the organization and ensure that the people within your organization understand that message and how they are best equipped to integrate new talent as it joins your organization and then begins to be productive and bring value to the bottom line. So with that, thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Aswin, Jai, Peter, Mr. Wang. Great to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much once again to our panel. Thank you, Mr. Brown, Mr. Mulani, Mr. Techa Jerionviku, and Mr. Wang. Thank you very much. Please proceed off stage and be seated. And thank you to Mr. Matthew Golub for moderating the session for us again. Thank you. Truly inspiring. Thank you for sharing your expertise and from your experiences. Well, ladies and gentlemen, after a morning of thought-provoking conversations, it's now time for a break. Before we head out for lunch, please spend some time to visit the Career Connect Expo in Hall 3F next door. The expo brings together industry leaders, major enterprises, and partners of Hong Kong Talent Engage to showcase the diverse development opportunities and industry prospects of Hong Kong, Macau, and mainland China. And before you leave the hall, please be reminded to return your headsets to the counter at the entrance if you have borrowed one. We'll see you again here at Hall 3G at 2:30 for more inspiring sharing. We'll see you after lunch. Thank you.